Coming to you from the Black Swan Media Studios, this is Fireside Chats, talking to the real difference makers in the world. Now, here is your host, John Crump.
It is Friday, and I am glad it's Friday, but I got a lot of work to do over the weekend on several articles I am working on, but let's get this show on the road. First, I want to thank Mantis X10, Mantis for the Mantis X10 Elite for our 2,000 YouTube subscribers. So if you go to youtube.com/John Crump, that's where I want everyone to go. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Periscope, go here. youtube.com/John Crump. Our chats aren't working anything. But once I get to 2,000 people over there, I'll be giving away this. This is a $250 value. This is a Mantis X10 Elite. Now, for every 100 subscribers, so 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, whatever, I'm going to be giving away a patch. Yay. At 1,500 subscribers, I am going to be giving away a $100 gift certificate to Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. Uncle Sam's Misguided Children makes some really badass clothing. I love it. I love their stuff, politically incorrect and unapologetically American. And that is Uncle Sam's MisguidedChildren.com. And about 100 subscribers, we are giving away a $100 gift certificate. Also, when we do the big giveaway, we are going to be giving away 5 autographed copies of my book and also 5 patches. So it's a lot of patches, a lot of books, a lot of Mantis, well, actually one Mantis X and $100 gift certificate. All right, guys, I'm going to jump right into it. But first, let me just let you know you can super chat and go to patreon.com/John Crump. All funds that are raised goes to my niece Bella, who is fighting DIPG, which is an aggressive form of childhood brain cancer. My name is John Crump. I am a journalist for Amaland News, and I am the Virginia State Director of Gun Owners of America. Now let's jump into it. I got a co-host with me today to help me interview this gentleman, and my co-host is Tony Simon. And the person that we're actually going to be interviewing is Stephen Lofton. He is an author, and he has a book out. But first, let me say hi, Tony. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? Glad to be here. Just tired because I'm old. To the point now, if I come in after midnight, it ain't good. I don't wake up like I used to.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I have kids, so I'm always exhausted. And we are joined today by an author who just has a new book that just came out named Stephen Lofton. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fair to middling. Thank you.
Fair to minimum? Well, that's better than that. Okay, so let me jump into this up and ask you a question. You have a book out right now, and it's called Ignorance Ain't Bliss. And this is your third book, if I am not mistaken.
That's correct. The first was the Hidden Dimension, an inside view on the reality of inner city America. The second was the Black Problem in America, and it ain't racism nor the cops. And finally, my latest work is entitled Ignorance Ain't Bliss, the Black Problem.
And I'm going to throw it up right here. This is it on Amazon right here. I'm going to throw a big copy of it. So
yes, all 3 are available at Amazon.
Yep. This is Ignorance Ain't Bliss. I'm going to show the other ones as well. Do you want to start out with how you got into writing? Because I'm a writer myself, so I always like to hear how people got out into writing. Then we'll go into what the book is about.
Well, I come from a tremendous as well as an odd experience that opened my eyes or gave me a close-up view on the nature of my own leadership, political, social, as well as religious. And I thought, well, I am certain I have something to share which will improve the condition of the Black inner city that's been dying for the last half century under the Democratic Party rule, which was to solve all Black problems through welfare policy, which not only destroyed the Black family, but destroyed the Black community as well. When Black men needed work. And there's been so much destruction within the inner city. It's time that we work on reversing it so that Black inner city citizenry can enjoy the fruits of the American system.
What do you say to people who say that the Republican Party is the party of racism and the Democratic Party is the party of equality?
I don't agree with that statement. My memory tells me that the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, and the Democratic Party is the party of slavery and the which gave birth to the Klan.
Yeah, but a lot of people on the Democratic side claim that the parties switched. I'm gonna go to Tony first because Tony's laughing about that.
Yeah, I hear the party switched all the time, and I'm like, well, what day was it, and how did you convince people that fought a war to take on the name of the people they fought against? The reality is, Democratic Party has been falling down. Blacks voted. Blacks voted for the Republican Party because the Republican Party did things for them. They first started voting Democrat really in larger numbers pretty much during the Great Depression, when more and more, and I think this is when the hook was set that Stephen talks about, when they came up with the welfare programs to help people out during those times. And like the road to hell is mostly paved with good intentions. So that's pretty much when Blacks started voting Democrat. I don't know exactly when we sold out to the party as a people, or when it got to the point that they just guaranteed or assumed that they would have every Black person's vote. But yeah, they never switch sides, and that's a convenient lie they keep telling themselves.
All right, Steve, what do you think of that?
Absolutely. The switch is a myth, and the proof is in the pudding. Just look at the Black predicament in America beneath the Democratic Party for the past half century. The proof is always in the pudding.
Yeah. Yep. It seems that is a inconvenient lie that gets told over and over and over again. What I think is funny is they claim that they say, Roosevelt was a Democrat and he was really a Democrat, but this guy wasn't really a Democrat. You know, he was a Republican. And then they keep going back and forth. Like they claim certain Democrats and disavow other Democrats, and try to say so. To me, it's like whenever someone does something bad, they say, he's not really a Democrat, he's a Republican. And when somebody does something, when someone does something good, they say, Lincoln wasn't a Republican, he's really a Democrat. And a lot of people believe that. How do we start getting it through to people that isn't exactly true?
The educational system has deteriorated tremendously over the past half century. And to my understanding, it's our educational system within America is controlled by the Democratic Party and the political left. And I think the purpose or how they utilize that control is to keep the masses of people within America ignorant, where they can maintain almost total control over the American people. And I think that's the nature of the Democratic and political left's purpose within the with their control of the educational system in this country.
Yeah, he went off camera. Every time he goes off camera, his little icon comes up, and it's him in a bathtub. So, yeah.
Don't hate the sexiness that is I. Yeah, so when you don't co-sign onto the script that they assign to people of color, of course, you know, the Democratic Party is the greatest thing ever. Ignore what you see with your own eyes. The reason we're down is because the Republicans made it so. So when you stray from that script, what have you found? How have you been treated, Stephen?
Well, I almost lost my life along with the people I loved in a way that gave me a direct view of my leadership and its failure. Nothing works within the Black inner city, political, social, nor religious, and it calls for the total breakdown of law on the civil side of the system within the inner city, and it's killing us beneath them. And I've been at this a long time trying to make changes within my inner city environment. Unlike Trump, though, the few people I've been connected with don't have that monetary wherewithal to compete with that outside money that produces our Black leadership for us, which are from interests that are foreign to our own. And those are the interests that our leadership serves at our expense. And when within a free society of America, its people have to be enlightened to make it work. And a lot of inner city folk, I guess, due to the struggle for survival, aren't able to keep up with the things that are going on with the political structure around them, which is why probably they keep sending the same folk back to political office that are destroying us.
Yeah. Your grandfather was a minister in Pittsburgh, but you you think that the Black preachers in the inner city is part of the problem. And did I read that right?
Well, yes. My grandfather was a Methodist minister. That's correct. And he was brought in from Pennsylvania to Baltimore to clean up the Black churches there, for they were stealing churches from one another. And they were just totally corrupt, and they weren't operating in accordance with the Methodist doctrine, either theologically nor according to the social principles the Methodist churches are founded upon. Matter of fact, there was an individual brought in back in the 40s from Europe. His name was Gunnar Mardell, and he was brought in because the larger community of interest couldn't understand why it was that Blacks were having so much difficulty assimilating into American society as all other ethnicities have done. And he dissected everything going on in terms of Black America and its leadership in terms of social organizations, the NACP, CORE, all those type of affiliations, religious end of things, and the political end of things, because of the concern over Blacks being unable to assimilate into American society as all other. Gunnar Mardell wrote that the Black church lags a century behind the times, and this is back in the 40s. And he also proclaimed that if the Black church does not reform itself radically, it will cease to exist, which is just about come true, because the Black community has died beneath the leadership of the Black church, which for the past half century delivered the Black vote to the Democratic Party that tried to solve all problems through welfare policy.
I got a question for both of you. I'm gonna hit Tony first. Tony, okay, do you think that Black Americans should be free agents when it comes to politics? Like, not be beholden to one party?
All right, it's simple. I think all Americans shouldn't be holding to any political party. You need to hold them all responsible for the things they do. Once you sell yourself out, they no longer have to pander to you. And it's that simple. They do not have to listen to you. They don't care. They move right along to the next demographic they want to pander to. And that's regardless of the party. But it's blatantly obvious with the Democrats and the things that the presidential candidate is saying now. The slip-ups, they say that Joe Biden actually had, and I'm like, I don't think the slip-ups. I think this idiot told the truth by mistake. And so no one should sell themselves out. Make every politician earn their place, regardless of the party, because some people that are Republicans aren't really, and some people that are Democrats aren't really. So you have to hold them up as individuals. And hey, buy them. What is it? Buy them, collect them, and trade them. Anytime they don't do what you want, get rid of them. And it's like baseball cards.
Yes, my concern is the problem to me seems to be no matter what we're involved in, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's our so-called civil rights organizations, nothing works according to the bylaws or the foundations in which those entities were set up. They've all been perverted, and I believe by and large behind greed, personal greed, or ignorance. And it's hurting this community.
Yeah, one thing that it seems like there's people like Al Sharpton, for example, or like who kind of make their living on race and everything else, and racism. If there wasn't, I mean, I think that like people like Al Sharpton, for example, they overblow stuff because that's their bankroll. Would you guys agree with that?
Well, I believe that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a sham itself, for the only thing that it produced was our poverty pimps, race hustlers, like the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, you name them, because if I break a law, I'm going to be charged with that violation of law in terms of robbery, fraud, conspiracy, you name it. This belief of charging white folk with racism and discrimination is really absurd, because how can you prove what someone thinks. Black folk have got to learn to charge white folk or anybody else in the same terms that are going to be levied against them, because they're easier to prove. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a sham from Jump Street. Like I said, the only folk that benefited off of it were our race hustlers. 99% of racial discrimination cases are lost in the courts, because how can one prove what someone thinks? It's easy if you've been robbed, if there's been a murder, or if there's been conspiracy, or you name it. Those type of crimes are easy to prove. How can you prove what someone thinks? The Civil Rights Act of 1964 kept blacks misled for a lot of years. Black folk have got to learn to start charging that white folk or anyone else in the same terms that would be levied against them. They're easy to prove.
You use the term poverty pimp. Can you explain what that is?
Folk, Trump, to my understanding, shakes down businesses under the guise of him helping blacks. I remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated there. I believe it was in Memphis back there in the 60s. And I don't believe Jesse Jackson was on that balcony, but he ended up in Chicago and held a press conference, and he had all this red stuff, I guess, to represent blood all over him, and that Martin Luther King had just died in his arms, and he asked him to take the reins and take over SCLC. And Jesse Jackson's been poverty pimping ever since.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Tony, what do you think of like Alex Parker and Jesse Jackson?
Well, look, they found out the business of race. That's what they're in. They're in the business of race. If things got better, well, they would lose some of their juice. If they said things got better, they would lose some of their juice. They need discord. They need hate. They need that problem, because that's how they make their money. And it hasn't changed. Black Lives Matter is just the newest example of the very same thing. They got hundreds of millions of dollars in through donations just this year alone, and then funneled most of it into the Democratic Party. What black neighborhood did they help? What black businesses did they help? We're in a time of COVID-19 when a lot of things are shut down. There are many black business owners that could use money to make ends meet, to pay rent in the places they can't even open. But that didn't happen. So yeah, there's money in the hustle, and we all know it. And it's just something that's somehow accepted that just shouldn't be. It's a wrong that shouldn't be accepted in our community.
Precisely. And another end of it is for them to sit up there and continue to line their pockets monetarily through those means. They've got to keep blacks down here ignorant. And that's part of the plight as well. They depend on ignorance for them to continue to hustle, to race hustle.
It seems like anytime like a Black American steps away from the Democratic Party, or like a Cayenne, or like anyone like that, it seems like they automatically get attacked for betraying. I say betraying with quotation marks, betraying the Black community. Is that a method of control? That, if you speak out, we're going to attack you.
Yes, the black problem is multifaceted, but I think what led to the greatest hurt inflicted upon the black society or the inner city, especially in terms of economics, was Martin Luther King Jr.'s physical integration philosophy. America is a provincial society where every group first protects itself. And behind Martin Luther King's desegregation integration philosophy, our black trained middle class fled their own kind and left them to die beneath Democratic Party welfare policy, basically, because no one remained to build anything. And black society consequently died. Every other ethnicity looks at integration mainly in terms of integration of the money supply. And that's why business and economic growth booms within their communities. Do you ever hear of any of the Chinese, Japanese, Italians, Greeks? You ever hear them talk about, let me integrate with other folk that are more well off than I? About the only national ethnicity I know of that begs to physically integrate with another ethnicity are blacks. No other ethnicity or folk does that. They come together and build amongst one another. And that integration, desegregation philosophy was put us on the wrong track to our own destruction, in other words, in my view. I also believe it was the American Communist Party that was behind Martin Luther King. As a matter of fact, I do recall the Kennedys, both John and Robert, let them know, I don't, I want to help you, but you've got to separate yourself from the communist influence. To my understanding, too, it was a guy by the name of Stanley Levison who actually wrote, who was a product of that American Communist Party that actually wrote Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous "I Have a Dream" speech, although white liberals would tell you that he actually edited it. King wrote it. But, I believe it was written I believe that the American Communist Party was in full force behind Martin Luther King. That integration policy was anti-human nature, because birds of a feather naturally flock together, and that philosophy kind of turned us into freaks of nature, running from our own kind.
Interesting. Tony, what do you think about that?
Well, one of the things I find difficult is there was a connection between the Communist Party and the Civil Rights Movement. There's no denying that. I've talked to people about it, especially when they look at today's and they're like, how could they work with communism? I'm like, you have to understand, you look at what happened back in the day in the time frame they're in, because I had two uncles that were World War II veterans, World War II era. One said there's no way in hell he's going to fight for America if he wasn't equal here. Why would he go fight and put his life at risk for somebody else? And then my other uncle signed up and went and fought in Japan. But understand, they did not have equal rights before they left. They didn't have them when they came back. One side was like, just wait, you'll get them eventually. And the other side was like, I want them now. So I don't blame them for allying with anybody or being allies with anybody that funds or helps them. Because remember, propaganda was strong on both sides back in the day. And the communists was running around telling black people, look, everybody's equal and happy in Cuba. We have black people in Cuba and we're all equal. Which communism is, communism is straight slavery.
Yeah,
communism is nothing.
Slaves in Cuba.
Yeah, communism is nothing but slavery, and it exploits people without the chance of even getting wealthy. I mean, you can say capitalism exploits people too, but depend on the deals you sign and the work you put in, you can become wealthy. That's not happening under the communist system. So anyway, I understand how you can get wooed, or they could get wooed. The way I look at history is because the American dream was not working and hadn't worked for generations. It was 100 years after the Civil War, and they were still trying to convince people to be equal. And as far as what he's talking about, what Stephen's talking about segregation and integration, he's right. Once we integrated, all of a sudden, your business didn't have to stay in your neighborhood. Your business didn't have to stay local. So now the black grocer had to compete with national level grocery stores. They had to compete with the Asian store. They had to compete with everybody else. And they slowly got put out of business because, well, you're still a small grocery store competing with chains. And of course, people also want to see the stores they weren't allowed in before. So, and that whole divisiveness thing has always been a fact in the black neighborhood, because the way you keep a whole bunch of people slaves is to keep them at each other's throat. I mean, the British Empire did that. You create a hierarchy and you keep people bickering and pulling each other down, and you don't have to stand as a strong master over them all. You can just sit back and collect money and live off the work they do. So, I mean, I don't think anything he said is incorrect. I just have a different opinion on why the Communist Party infiltrated the civil rights movement, but it definitely did infiltrate the civil rights movement.
Well,
I believe that they look for the weakest links in American society and use them. Like you take, I believe it was the failure of black society doing what I've already described, fleeing their own kind. No one, our belief that we need not help or build for one another, or I got mine, now you get yours, created the devastation that you see in the black inner city. And the welfare, combined with the welfare system that provided money to the black woman, when black men required work, put that black man in a position where he had to hustle and scuffle for his most basic needs, and many of them ended up in the penitentiary or dead, trying to survive, and sometimes by any means possible. And I believe people have a right to survive, and the work is the most basic need of a poor man. Without work, he loses all of his other rights that most American citizens take for granted. He loses the right to be safe and secure within his possessions. He loses the right to acquire and possess property. Without that ability to work, a man loses all other rights, again, that the average American citizen takes for granted. And the black preacher was delivering the black vote to the Democratic Party, that was destroying the black citizenry through providing welfare to our women when black men needed work, was absolutely destructive to us. And then you had the black Muslim on the other side recruiting the blacks that didn't get killed on the street from the penitentiary. And he was there to use, the black Muslims were there to use the black man when he was released to the penitentiary. The black Christian preacher and the black Muslim preacher were the greatest 1-2 punch against black men on earth.
I can't even argue with him, because it really is. It was a setup. Understand, we came out of World War II. We came out of slavery in America, had to figure it out. Blacks figured it out. They started black towns. like Rosewood, like what they call Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I was about to bring up Tulsa.
Yeah, all of that was created by blacks that were former slaves, offsprings of slaves, first generation out of slavery. And they were able to build a better community for themselves. They had their own schools, they had their own hospitals. And what that created, especially when times started getting hard post World War II, post World War I, was jealousy. And then all of a sudden it just started turning. And you had the Red Summer, 1919, 1920, 1921, where there were attacks and entire black towns were murdered and disappeared. And that was a constant attack because there was money in the black community, and it was shown to be money in the black community. There were black millionaires that were former slaves or children of slaves. So you can't tell me America is somehow more racist now than it was then. And these people became millionaires through hard work. But then those societies were destroyed. They were destroyed through the educational system. They were destroyed through the welfare system. And I mean, you know about the FBI and the way they infiltrated the civil rights movement of every group. They were involved with the Black Panthers. They got involved with the civil rights with Martin Luther King Jr. and others, and just slowly destroyed it all as more and more government programs came about to get blacks. And we can say poor people, but it was really directed at people of color to get them signed up for this. So all of a sudden your dad wasn't needed anymore because the government became your dad. Then they bring drugs in and allow that to happen. I'm sorry, but you cannot have drug problem in the country. You need kilotons of drugs to be shipped in. Somehow that happens here. And then you find out that they were using those drugs to run black ops and fund black ops. Where do you think they came from? Why do you think they let certain neighborhoods fall down and become cesspools?
The crack epidemic, right?
Even before the crack epidemic, there was a heroin epidemic that affected blacks in the 60s and the 70s. And then heroin, it's all vile. It's all exploiting people. And yeah, they worked it with the black people, but now guess what? You have an opioid epidemic in this country, and that affects every neighborhood. And that was allowed to happen. That was allowed to fester. The gang problem, same thing. A whole illegal underground culture. All of that was allowed to happen for various reasons. But we see the destruction in black neighborhoods all the time, and we still haven't recovered.
Yes.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, I agree with you. Many of the things you're saying, and it was the failure of Black society, and what I've already expressed, that created the Crips, the Bloods, and the like, and even Black Lives Matter. And it also opened the door for Antifa to use them. Every ethnicity that came to America faced racism in some form or another along the way, but working together amongst themselves, all of them were able to assimilate successfully into American society, whereby we Blacks could have simply used them as models, but we didn't. And that's sad as well as tragic. All of them control a piece of the money supply, whereas we Blacks as a group control no piece of the money supply because of the decisions that we've made that were, to me, anti-American. Because every group first protects itself, and we're not even doing that.
How do you think? How do you think we as a people can turn that around, Stephen? How do you think, as an individual, someone can help make that change?
Well, I believe right now the only catalyst that's working in our interests at all in terms of the great unemployment rate of Black men for the past half century is the policy making of our president, Donald Trump. And I'm hoping through his revamping the educational system through choice and making work opportunity for Blacks will buy us more time to learn to think and act like Americans so that we can eventually assimilate into American society as has all other ethnicities.
So you're not a Joe Biden fan, Stephen?
Not at all. I don't see how he's been propped up this long. I mean, and the questions that he gets, they throw them softballs. I think the man is actually committed treason against the United States. I think he sold the office of the vice presidency to both Ukraine as well as China, and personally enriched his son, Hunter Biden, by selling out this country. He sold the office of President of the United States, and I don't see why he's not being he's not being he's getting nothing but softball questions from this fake mainstream media.
Well, I find it funny because I do not follow the news. I do not do it. I stopped after the election of Donald Trump because it got so divisive. It got so partisan that it was sickening. This is coming from someone that does not watch the news every day. I've watched the news clips of Biden talking about how he intimidated the Ukraine into hiring his son and stopping an investigation. He said it with his own words. I'm like, it's no mystery. It's no setup. It's not me drinking the Kool-Aid of Donald Trump. I'm like, the man said he did it, and there's no investigation. So yeah.
He's actually on video. He's on video. They got him on video. If you don't fire that prosecutor, you're not going to get that $1.5 billion. And I was, you got an hour and a half or whatever it was to fire that prosecutor, and I'll stop that money from coming over into the Ukrainian country. And he got him on video.
It's not even a secret video. He was talking about it in public. So, hey, listen, if you vote for Biden, if you want to vote for Biden, do you. But understand, don't let your hatred for Trump blind you to the fact that this dude has done stuff that actually Trump had a conversation about it and they wanted to get rid of Trump. This dude did it and they want to elect him as president.
Exactly. It's dark comedy is what it is. It's unbelievable. It's sad. It's very sad. I don't see how Biden can possibly win the presidency of the United States coming from this background, unless it's rigged.
Well, I think if he just should.
Sorry.
What was that?
Stand up to corn puff.
Oh, well, no, it's not that. All he has to do is break out his cell phone and just start playing music from the MTV Video Awards, and everybody will love him. Do a little pop locking, doing a little Justin Bieber action going, do the WAP. Just put that on, and everyone would love him, and he'll win in the landslide.
I saw something interesting on the internet today that Biden is liable to come down with COVID-19 to circumvent the upcoming debates until election time when he's cured from it.
Of course.
They're trying to sneak him into the Oval Office. I've never seen anything like this in my 65 plus years on Earth. It's I've just never seen anything like what's happening today in America. It's crazy.
I'm not even sure if he knows that he's running for for president. I don't think he knows where he is.
He just wants to be part of Kamala Harris's administration.
Yeah, but what's really scary about it is the mainstream media is working right along with them. This is like an arm of the Democratic Party through untruth, outright lies to help sneak the guy into the Oval Office. The mainstream media today reminds me of those two periodicals, Pravda and Izvestia of the former USSR, and even the proletariat there recognized them for what they are and morbidly joked among themselves because one of them meant the truth and the other the light. They morbidly joked among themselves that there was no truth in the light and no light in the truth. And Americans are fooled by our mainstream media in America, which is out of this world. I'm not understanding.
I think one of the problems is people assume because they're watching the news, they're informed. And I'm like, no, you're watching the news and you're manipulated. You have the power in your cell phone of more intelligence than we've ever had access to as individuals, as people that weren't of royal birth. And we all throw it away and for the most part, watch cat videos or watch TikTok. And I'm like, you have more intelligence and more access to things, to learn how things work, how they should be, to educate yourself. And one thing I can say about Black Americans compared to every other American, but we throw opportunity away every day, just like anybody else. And that's what we have, and we aren't using it, and that's a problem.
Now, one of the things that I want to bring up is that you're talking about other races. It seems if you look at the statistics of the nuclear family, family would have the mother and father in the home, it's around 50-50 for like most races, but for Black Americans, it's only 20%. What do you what do you think caused that? Because I think the nuclear family is very important for success. In fact, polls show it is, and statistics show that it is. But why do you think there's such a disparity in that?
It's the result of what the welfare system has done to Black society over the past half century. It obliterated the Black family and consequently even destroyed the Black community itself. Black society ain't referred to as distaff, woman's domain, by the larger community of interest for nothing. And that's primarily the result of 50 years or half a century of welfare policy. Yeah.
If you look, this is how sad it is. There were more Black nuclear families during slavery than there are today. I think that was done intentionally. I think the Black society has been broken down and exploited and has not picked itself up by its own bootstraps. And I think it was a continual thing that happened. I don't know when to put a date on it, but when you had so many Blacks that were educating themselves post-Civil War, remember right after the Civil War, we had our first senators that were Black. We had successful business people. That didn't stop, but that became a threat to a lot of people because that was money they couldn't get a hold of. If you think about what the percentage of Blacks, you can go with 12, you can go with 15, but the amount of money they collected and had was significant. And that's money that people wanted to get a hold of, and you can pass policies that allow that to happen. You break up the Black family. You make certain crimes worse. Like all of a sudden, let's talk about the, I'll just take the one thing I know off the top of my head. I know when you sold crack, you got a totally different sentence than if you sold cocaine. and it was a much stiffer sentence because of the amount or some silly the way the laws were written. That helped devastate the community. It was allowed to be sold in our community. It didn't become a crack epidemic until it got into white communities. It didn't become a crack epidemic until the 90s. Meanwhile, it had been in black neighborhoods since the 80s and maybe even late 70s. It was allowed to happen. And that's the problem. And you have to fight your way back from now almost a century of exploitation and destruction. And you can even, again, look up how the FBI integrated and got into these groups and helped destroy it. It was done on purpose. Now, my whole thing is you have the opportunity through critical thinking, through hard work, to work your way out of it and to help lift each other up. But like Stephen said, there's still this whole thing about I got mine, you get yours. And people get the heck out of Dodge. And sometimes I don't even blame them, because as you're seeing in some of the neighborhoods that are getting torn up by Antifa or the riots, they're destroying the neighborhoods they live in. African Americans, I think, is being set up. I think outside influence are coming in. They started, and opportunists jumped on the bandwagon. But, and we saw it with the arrest. We see these people come from out of town. You saw what happened in Lancaster in Pennsylvania. Instigators come from out of town. They're paid to go there, start destroying during protest, and there are opportunities to. What was that?
They're all medics.
Yeah, that too. They start destroying the neighborhoods, and opportunists live in every neighborhood, so they're going to take that window out too, and they're going to run inside and grab the Nikes. Well, what about the guy that owned the store, worked his butt off, probably since he was young or she was young, to start her business, to run her business, those sacrifices. So yes, if you're a business owner, regardless of color, and you're in a neighborhood that was allowed to be destroyed, why would you open up in that neighborhood again? If you have that same drive, you would take it to somewhere else. And that's the devastation that happens in our neighborhood. It happened in Plainfield, New Jersey. It happened in Newark, New Jersey. It happened in Camden, New Jersey, all during the 60s and the uprisings there. And those towns are still suffering from that. You don't recover quickly from this kind of destruction. That's when they tried to, there were 3 pallets of bricks left along the route in Trenton, New Jersey this year, when they tried to have the Black Lives Matter rally there. But the residents of Trenton were not having that, and they called, and those somehow pallets of bricks that no one saw dropped off were removed before the protest. That's what we have to do. We have to take responsibility for our neighborhoods and what happens in our neighborhood. You cannot allow outside influences to come in and take over, regardless of who they are. Yeah. You have to run your own neighborhood.
The medic joke. The medic joke was a bunch of people got arrested in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and every article that came out about, because they all got their bail set at $1 million, and every article that came out about these people, they're all from out of town, but every article, every person that was captured claimed to be there to render first aid and wasn't actually participating in the rioting. They were just there for first aid, and it's like,
yes. Yeah, a lot of what we're seeing today around the country is just amazing. And I'm dying to see which way things are going to go come November. Will it be socialism and lawlessness, or will it be capitalism and the rule of law? I know that socialism hasn't worked anywhere. And within the few countries where some semblance of it has worked, the rate of immigration is 0, and the people are well trained. So I'm dying to see which way America is going to go come November.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. I will be sitting up watching it. I'll probably be covering it for some news organization and whatnot, but it's definitely gonna. I don't know. Well, I worry a little bit.
For the first time in 17 years, I will not be working this election, and I am really, really glad. I did when Donald Trump ran. I worked the elections, and we had people lined up outside the door that we had to let into the building before the polls closed, and we were there another hour as they voted. And that was when they were civil. I can't imagine what having all those people inside one building will be like in November. I'm sure the police will be called multiple times, and I'm not part of it. Thank goodness.
Yeah, this is going to get more interesting before it gets less interesting, I think. So I'm dying to see which way things are going to go. And that Chinese pandemic sure seems kind of timely.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. No. Our aluminum foil hat is getting a little, my tinfoil hat is getting a little tight because that's just a lot of coincidence. That's all it is. It's just coincidence.
If you go to my YouTube channel, I put a video up, and I put some graphics over it of a guy named Yuri Barmenov, who is a former KGB agent. It's an interview from 1985, where he basically describes what's going to happen over the next 35 years. And if you watch that, you're going to be scared because everything that he says has happened, right down to the timeline and COVID.
Yeah, I think I'm aware of some, if it's not that, some similar sources of the same types of information similar to that. But in any event, hopefully Trump will win, and in a landslide, because I don't want it to be close. That's going to cause even more confusion. But if Trump wins, I think Black America will have some time to learn to think and act like Americans for the continued survival of Black America in terms of rebuilding the Black inner city.
I talked to someone who was studying African American studies in college, and I said, "Oh, did you guys learn about Black Wall Street?" And she was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "But you're studying African American history in college. How do you not know about Black Wall Street?"
Okay, hold on. I have to ask. If you study African American history in college, what's your ultimate goal? To be a Black person? I mean, what are you studying that? What are you gonna do with that degree? Take a business degree. A business degree.
I took a African American Studies class back in college as a means of fulfilling my GE requirements, thinking it was going to be an easy subject and I could concentrate on my major. But the African American instructor I had he laid hordes of assignments on me, and it was. It shouldn't have been like that because I was not majoring in African studies. But
oh yeah,
I look back on it today, and it's kind of comical to me today. But yeah, what do you do with African American studies?
You know, what you can do is teach African American studies.
Yeah. Like, what does that qualify you for? Yeah.
Barista, Starbucks.
Oh, hold on. Hi, yeah, this is Jan down in HR. We have two applicants. Neither one of them have an experience. One has a degree in business, and the other one has a degree in African American studies. Which one should we hire?
It's comical. It really is. It's absolutely comical. You know, I'm in Las Vegas now. My wife and I just gave up. California's lost cause to us. So we lost cause to us. We've been in Las Vegas the last 2 years. But I had a neighbor there in LA that just got off the ship from Somalia and could barely speak English. And he ended up a African American Studies professor there at the University UCLA there in Los Angeles. And I just wondered how was that possible? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't even think he had his citizenship, perhaps not even his residency. And he ended up there at UCLA as a as a professor. And a lot of things are happening today. It just boggles the mind. Absolutely.
All right. Well, our show has been on for over an hour now, so I'm gonna wrap it up by saying visit all my links at Grumpy.com. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give Tony, but let Tony pitch whatever he wants to pitch, and then I'll give you the last word, Stephen. So go ahead, Tony.
All right. Understand it's not really hard to advance in African American studies, or because I mean Rachel Dolezal was the president of the NAACP, so it doesn't take. I guess it's a low bar. Maybe that's what you can do with African American Studies degree. If you want to follow me, you can go to diversityshoot.com, where I host Second Amendment events for all people, regardless of color, regardless of what you got your college degree in. If you want to come and learn how to shoot a firearm, to meet Second Amendment advocates, and to just be a part of the firearms culture, that's what we do. Go to diversityshoot.com. You can support us by buying t-shirts. You can support us by donating to our GoFundMe. And of course, there is the Second is for Everyone podcast, and you can support that on patreon.com. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate being on the show.
Thank you, Tony. And Stephen, you have the final word.
Thank you, both. Once again, my name is...
And by the way, the links to all your books are in the descriptions. No matter where you watch that at, all the links are in the descriptions, so they can buy your books. And I highly recommend people to go buy them on Amazon.com, and they're all listed in the description. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, John, and you as well, Tony. Once again, my name is Stephen Lofton, and I am the author of Ignorance Ain't Bliss, The Black Problem. Donald Trump will drain the Washington, D.C. swamp, but only Black folk can drain the Black inner city swamp of its incompetent, inept, and corrupt Black leadership that exists from sea to shining sea, who have caused for the total breakdown of law on the civil side of the system within the Black inner city that's killing we Black folk beneath them. You can find my book, Ignorance Ain't Bliss, The Black Problem, at Amazon.com, simply by entering the title or typing in my name, Stephen, with a V, Steven, Lofton, Lofton. And Amazon will bring my work up before you. Many thanks, America, for listening to my story.
All right, thank you. I just want to say that your books are great. I read them all in less than a week, and I think everyone else out there should read them. All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to drop the video, and we are out. I'll see you Monday.